Hello, viewers! This is our French Open recap because I don't know about you guys, but I think this is one of the most exciting slams that we've had for a really long time. From the first round to the last round, there are spicy matchups. You didn't know really what was going to happen till the end.
I don't know if I've ever gone into a tournament this high stakes before, not knowing who's going to win. You know, you had some key players in Carlos Alcaraz, Sinner, Djokovic. Were they going to make deep runs? But I think this was as uncertain a tournament as you could possibly get. And it was as exciting a finish as you could possibly see. Zverev somehow finds a way to make these finals like challenger level. When he played team in the US Open, it was genuinely like challenger 200 level.
So speaking of Zverev, where would you rank him if you were give him a grade, with S being the best? Because I think we can all agree Carlos had an S-tier tournament.
I think Zverev, honestly, had an A-tier tournament. I know he didn't win. I know he played like he was, a piano string. That's how tight he looked out there. But he still makes the finals. He had to go through Nadal. He had to constantly come back, win 5-setters, grind things out. He never really looked comfortable out there the entire time, and he goes through mental battles, and you can see them visibly, but to make the finals is still impressive. I'd give him an A tier, even though I think that was more than a winnable match for him, and he's going to be kicking himself. I think this is, they talk about scar tissue. That's going to leave some scar tissue on Zverev, losing that match, which, I don't think Carlos was at his best. I don't know if I would put, Carlos in S tier for performance, but again, he was not in full health. The way he grinded through that, he finds the win, and that's exactly. So
I disagree. I think Zverev had an S tier tournament. I think both of the 5-setters he played, old Zverev would have lost those a lot of the time, especially the one against Greek Spore, finding that win against Rafa. He did not have an easy draw. It's really good to see him back. Not to mention he had wins on other courts as well. Now legally an innocent man. I would say it was S tier for him. He's not a slam contender, really. He's proven that he will refuse to win a slam. So getting to the finals pretty much as good as you can hope for him.
who do you think has more of a chance of winning a final accidentally, him or Casper Ruud?
Zverev.
Okay, so I still think he's a championship contender. I think he has the game. He should be winning majors. He should have been winning majors. He just seems
Are you
to.
insisting we leave him an A?
I'm insisting we leave him an A. I think he could have won that.
So speaking of Rude, then, who I would say this was a B tier performance for Rude. He played great. He really deserved it. Got sick, maybe a bit unlucky, but I think Rude is not happy with a semifinal performance at the tournament that is arguably his strongest, where he is showing repeatably really good results.
I would put him on the lower A tier. I mean, he's such a professional. Like you said, he was not at his best. B is. I know. I think he did really well. I think he plays with what he has, and you run into the best of the best when you're at the end of a major, and I don't think there's any harm in losing in the semifinal stage.
He's gotten to the stage where he's better than a semifinal performance at Roland Garros.
I agree. Okay, B tier. Stefanos Tsitsipas. He lost to Carlos Alcaraz in the final, or in the quarterfinals rather, and I just think that's a really bad matchup for him. It's proven time and time again that Carlos Alcaraz just has the style and the game to take it to Tsitsipas. And I don't think that, Carlos wins the tournament, so it's not like he's losing to some scrub, and he makes it to the quarterfinals. I think overall this was a pretty good tournament for him, and I'd put him in B tier.
I really would have liked to see a little bit more out of the match against Carlos, but I think it was really good for me to see Tsitsipas finding a lot better form than we've seen in the last 12 months, so I'll agree. B tier, above average for him because of how he dealt with those early rounds really cleanly, and then I don't know if you can really expect him to do much more against the tiny Spaniard. Andre Rublev, who I think had borderline an F tier tournament, really went out early, had shown good form on clay, just complete meltdown, looked really bad in the press, going out on a really bad note, and like to me that's an F tier performance.
Yeah, he went absolutely ballistic in his losing effort at the French Open, and honestly, after we made our picks for tweener, I said to Beckett, I kind of regretted not picking Rublev. I felt like this might be his year, and I'm so glad that I forgot to pick him, because holy smokes, did he ever flame out. I've never really seen it get that bad. It seems like he's getting worse and worse. He's regressing mentally in a way that's quite troubling. I think he's in a really dark period of his career right now. I'm sure he'll turn it around. Hopefully, he clearly needs an exorcism or something. I don't know what the heck's going on there. He is ready to eat his entire racket on the court. Next up, I want to talk about Novak Djokovic, the most improved player at this tournament. He's gone from losing first rounds at ATP 250s to making the quarterfinals of a major. And I think that that's really impressive. In all seriousness, I thought he looked pretty good. I think that clearly his mental hurdles that he suffered at some of the lower tier tournaments were not nearly as present at Roland Garros. They were still there, but he fought through. He grinded that win against Cerundolo and Musetti. And I think that he looked pretty good for an old man. You can just tell his body is not moving the same way it used to and the same way he wants it to. And mentally, I just think that some of those old style Djokovic things, those excuses are starting to creep its way back into his mind. And you can see him visibly battling them and trying to push them out of his mind. And he pushed through. And what more do you want from a guy? I would give him an A tier performance. He wouldn't have gone out if it wasn't for his knee injury. For me, that's A tier. He could have won the whole thing. I think if he played Carlos Alcaraz in the final, he certainly would have beat him.
Yeah, I think he would have won because he's got that special mental factor, and he did show that, something we haven't seen from him this year. But I think when it comes to the result of this tournament, not that he was trying to win the tournament, but for him, the result of the...
He wasn't trying to win the tournament.
Well, he was he's going in trying to win, and he's trying to get slams, but we know his priority is Olympic gold. It's the one thing left in tennis that has eluded the greatest player who's ever lived, and he doesn't like holes in his resume. Like, that's something that Djokovic really cares about. And for when I look at Djokovic and I see what was the result of the French Open, it's knee surgery. And that is the last thing he wants. Last time he got surgery, he was clearly super unhappy. He reported that he cried for days. He felt guilty for putting his arm under the knife. We all know that he has some radical opinions when it comes to conventional medicine. And I think going in for surgery is a really desperate play to really just try to find this gold. And I think it was an F tier tournament, because this is the worst possible outcome for Novak Djokovic. I think it would have been better for his career for him to go out first round and be completely physically
results-oriented wise, getting surgery at his age before the Olympics, which he really cares about, is an F-tier result, but it wasn't an F-tier performance.
I'm ranking results. Like, how are these guys walking
But his
away?
Result in the tournament.
But how is he walking away feeling about this? Is he feeling...
Yeah. No, he's feeling F. He's feeling F.
Because
We're locking him in.
Performance-wise, A for me.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. He did an A-tier performance at the French. He gets an F-tier result at the French. On tweener, I don't know how you guys did, but I did pretty good. I got 11th place, and Beckett got significantly worse. I really played this top heavy, and it paid off in a big way. I had Novak Djokovic as my anchor, but of course I switched him out.
Right?
I'm Dredd. Yeah, I'm Dredd. One of the best movies ever. Judge Dredd. I had a bad feeling about Djokovic, and I traded him at the 11th hour right before he pulled out.
Simon, 3 of his 8 players got 0 points.
And I got 11th
And he got 11th place. It's really important to pick the winner. A lot of my guys kind of dipped out in the 4th round in the quarters, and you need to pick winners to win in tweener. It's so top heavy with the points. We had tons of fun. We're going to be playing the 250s starting tomorrow for us, but today for you guys. And then Wimbledon is on the horizon. I really need to redeem my ability to pick. I personally think that I know more about grass court tennis than Simon does, so I should easily win. If you don't know, I'm a consolation champion as a junior on grass court, so I actually know quite a bit.
I am mixed doubles runner-up in the Cowichan
Okay, that's pretty good.
tennis tournament with Ali. So we're going to defend our title as runners-up. Okay, Yannick Sinner. This was a weird tournament for him. He did, of course, make it to the semifinal.
He played personally my favorite match of the tournament against Moutet. That was hilarious.
He did, but the thing is you can still see, I think Clay exacerbates it the most, maybe. It's how he still struggles with unconventional play and how to deal with that. And, you saw that in early days when he'd play Carlos, and Carlos would just throw something unique at him. And if he hadn't seen it before, he really didn't know how to deal with it. But when he was playing Moutet, Moutet had that first set where he was drop-shotting everything and kind of playing lights out. And then Yannick was able to adjust. It took him about a set and a half. He turned it around. So that's encouraging in a way. Again, I think that his body was a big question mark. I don't know what he was feeling, but when he played Carlos, both of them looked simply exhausted. I think that was one that maybe slipped by him, but it was a toss-up. Overall, I think that this was a pretty impressive performance for me. I'd give him A tier, even though I think in his mind, he's probably thinking it's more like a C tier, but that's why he's the guy he is now. He's such a ferocious competitor. He's so angry about how he plays, but overall, I think he did better than honestly, better than I thought he would.
He did what he should have done, and I agree, and I'm ready to move on. And I want to talk about someone who I think maybe went under the radar, but I think for them this was an S-tier performance, and that is the Demon. Alex de Minaur had a shockingly good French Open. Clay is definitely not his surface. When he found these wins, he ended up deep, and he ended up losing to someone that he should have lost to.
And Zverev blew him off the court because Zverev played like Zverev because it wasn't the finals. I agree. This tier list is shaping up to be highly subjective with no consistent baseline for what qualifies as a good performance. But for Alex de Minaur, I would agree. This is a really good tournament for him. And Beckett said something interesting to me that I might agree with. I think he's primed for Wimbledon. I think he's going to do very good. His movement's so good. He picks up low balls really well, and he is a killer at the net. He puts things away like nobody's business. I think he's going to be...
Aussies know what they're doing on the grass. So next up, I want to talk about someone who's been disappointing me like crazy this year, and that is my favorite player in the world, Holger Rune. I don't even think this was a C tournament for him. I think this was a D tournament for him. He should be making semis in these slams by now, and really stop being such a big baby. He lost in that fifth set. It felt like to me because he couldn't get over what happened in the tiebreaker with the line calls. That was frustrating. He's not showing any kind of composure. He's going to have to figure out how to take a step back and calm down because I don't think he deserves to be a slam champion, but he's someone who should be posing more problems to the top guys and walking through these lower ranked players with a little bit more ease. Just frustrating to be a Holger fan right now. I can't imagine how his mom must feel.
I think Beckett is a little heartbroken. His crush has gone out again. You lose in 5 sets to the finalist runner-up. I don't know that that's a knock on your performance. I know tennis is cutthroat. Tennis, it only matters if you win.
He should have won that tie.
He should have, but he should have won against the finalist. So that tells you that he was doing pretty well, and he just didn't have the capacity to win it at that moment. So, I think D is quite harsh, and I think that that's because of your high expectations of him.
You want to put him in C?
I would put him in C. I think that, yes, he should be and could be doing a lot more than he is, but that means that he should be at the very top of these major brackets. And I think that he's still young and he's still figuring it out. And I think that there's a lot more to come from him. I don't think this was a disaster by any means. He's still in the development stage. Next up, we'll talk about Medwed the octopus. And I can't remember for the life of me what happened. So let's...
He just went out early, and he lost a demon. He lost a demon.
5 rounds, 5 sets, right?
Or four sets. He felt, and he said he wasn't. He thought Demon just played way too good, and he wasn't too mad. And I think that's C. You know, like, he doesn't have huge expectations of himself on clay. Nobody else does either. He shows up. He loses to a guy who had one of the clay tournaments of his life for sure. And I think he's just regrouping for whatever's next. He seemed completely brushed it off. It was nice to see that Rafa was able to find a bit of a level against Zverev. Terrible draw. I think going into this, I had no expectation on him winning. Kind of C-ish because of that, but it was really nice to see positives going into the Olympics. So I might even push him up to B for this.
Nadal, yeah, he did fantastic. I loved the way he lost that first round match.
Hey, he showed a great performance.
He would have won against any 16-year-old player that they should have had him play against that day.
I don't know. Like, they could have rigged the draw, and they just were like, no, let's give him the worst possible. Rating the organizers of the tournament. First of all, worst highlights of any tennis tournament in the world. 3 minutes, and they show the winner of the match immediately. And they also don't show any critical points, just a couple of seemingly random rallies.
Half the highlights are them walking out as well.
Yeah, and then shaking hands. I seen they got some flack about scheduling the women's during the day, starting at 11, and the men's at night. It's like, who gives a shit? Like, the reason people don't watch women's tennis is because Iga has 40-minute matches. That's terrible value for money. So I get why they're doing that. So I don't think that was the big deal, but
Yeah, I like the way they run their tournament. It's pure, unadulterated chaos, and for me, it creates such a difficult atmosphere that you have to be the most obstinate to win. I like that they have lines people. I like that there's drama. I like that they're still checking the lines with their eyes, even though it's not reliable at all. It adds...
Zverev attempt to bully the officials on which line or which mark is which mark. It's so funny.
He was right, too. The ball was out, and it was called in. It was overruled as in, and he would have broken to tie it back up in the 5th set. And I know, objectively speaking, you go, well, that's a shame. But you all hate Zverev, so I'm sure you're all very happy. It was fun. Yeah, it was fun. They're French as well. It was insane. I don't understand anything they do. I don't understand a single decision they make, but it creates such an interesting atmosphere because it's just a constant battle. No, they're F tier objectively, but